11 Facts about Jesus' Death and Resurrection. The crucifixion and resurrection are central to the Christian faith because they reconcile us to God and promise us a new life. What fascinating facts can we glean from these two historical events? Number 1. For 30 pieces of silver, Jesus was betrayed. It is challenging to comprehend Judas's motivations for betraying Jesus. We do know, however, that Satan was using him. Luke chapter 22, verse 3, New International Version. Then Satan entered Judas, called Iscariot, one of the 12. Judas eventually receives 30 pieces of silver for betraying Jesus. Was that sufficient motivation for betrayal? 30 pieces of silver are used in Zechariah to describe a shepherd's daily wage and the compensation for a slave killed. Zechariah chapter 11, verse 12 through 14. Amplified Bible. I said to them, if it seems good to you, give me my wages. But if not, do not. So they weighed out 30 pieces of silver as my wages. Then the Lord said to me, throw it to the potter as if to the dogs. That magnificent sum at which I am valued by them. So I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw them to the potter in the house of the Lord. Then I broke my second staff, union, into pieces to break the brotherhood between Judah, the southern kingdom, and Israel, the northern kingdom. Exodus chapter 21, verse 32. Amplified Bible. If the ox gores a male or a female servant, the owner shall give to the servant's master 30 shekels of silver, the purchase price for a slave, and the ox shall be stoned. Was it sufficient to motivate Christ's betrayal? We do not know for sure, and we do know that Judas realized after Jesus' crucifixion that it was insufficient compensation for his decision. Matthew chapter 27, verse 3 through 5. Amplified Bible. When Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was gripped with remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. They replied, what is that to us? See to that yourself. And throwing the pieces of silver into the temple sanctuary, he left, and went away and hanged himself. Mary was present at Christ's birth and death. When Mary and Joseph brought Jesus to the temple, they encountered an older man named Simeon. Simeon was promised by the Holy Spirit that he would see the Messiah before he died. He recognized Jesus after being led by the Spirit. He thanked God for allowing him to witness God's salvation while holding the child in his arms. Luke chapter 2, verse 34 through 35. Amplified Bible. Simeon blessed them and said to Mary, his mother, listen carefully. This child is appointed and destined for the fall and rise of many in Israel, and for a sign that is to be opposed, and a sword of deep sorrow will pierce through your own soul, so that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. As Mary watched her son be crucified, the final sentence of his prophecy came true. Even in his agony, Jesus was concerned about his mother's well-being, instructing John to look after her. John chapter 19, verse 26 through 27. Amplified Bible. So Jesus, seeing his mother, and the disciple whom he loved, esteemed, standing near, said to his mother, Dear woman, look, here is your son. Then he said to the disciple, John, look, here is your mother, protect and provide for her. From that hour, the disciple took her into his home. Number 3. A sign was placed on the cross explaining Jesus' crime. In Matthew's Gospel, we're informed that a sign is made that explains the charges against Jesus. John tells us that since the area where Jesus was crucified was near the city, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews, was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. The letters INRI appear on the sign in many works of art and crucifixes. This is derived from the Latin inscription, Iesus Nazarenus Rex Iudiotum. John chapter 19, verse 19 documents, Pilate had a notice prepared and fastened to the cross. It read, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. John chapter 19, verse 20 continues, Many of the Jews read this sign, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and the sign was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. Although John's Gospel directs to the writing as a title, Mark and Matthew both guide to it as an accusation. It was customary to set up over the heads of individuals crucified the crime for which they suffered and the name of the sufferer. Pilate condemned Jesus based on his claim to be the King of the Jews. The crime for which Jesus was crucified is not a crime at all, but an entirely true statement. Jesus is not only the King of the Jews, but also the King of all, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Revelation chapter 17, verse 14. Amplified Bible. They will wage war against the Lamb, Christ, and the Lamb will triumph and conquer them, because he is Lord of Lords and King of Kings, and those who are with him and on his side are the called and chosen, elect and faithful. Revelation chapter 19, verse 16. Amplified Bible. And on his robe and on his thigh he has a name inscribed, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He is king over all the heavens and all their residents, and it was not any offense of his own that was fixed to the cross. It was the sins of everyone who would ever put their faith in him for salvation. He has blotted out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and has taken it out of the way, nailing it to the cross. Colossians chapter 2, verse 14, Amplified Bible. Having canceled out the certificate of debt consisting of legal demands which were in force against us and which were hostile to us. And this certificate he has set aside and completely removed by nailing it to the cross. Number 4. Crucifixion was not rare in Rome. The Romans kept their power through intimidation. If there were any dissent from a group or individual, Roman authorities would flog and crucify the perpetrators as a message to the populace. The number of people crucified in Rome is estimated to be in the tens of thousands. Number 5. Where Jesus would be buried was prophesied. It was predicted where Jesus would be buried. According to Matthew, after Jesus died, a wealthy man offered up his burial plot. Matthew chapter 27, verse 57 through 60. Amplified Bible. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea, named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus so that he might bury him, and Pilate ordered that it be given to him. And Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, burial wrapping, and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had cut in the rock, and he rolled a large stone over the entrance of the tomb and went away. Isaiah predicted about Jesus' burial hundreds of years before. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 9, Amplified Bible. His grave was assigned with the wicked, but he was with a rich man in his death, because he had done no violence, nor was there any deceit in his mouth. According to the prophecy, Jesus was executed as a criminal, but ended up in the tomb of the wealthy. Number 6. Jesus' tomb was triple protected. The Romans were wary of any of Jesus' followers stealing his body because they knew he had promised to return in 3 days. They did everything they could to keep it safe from outside interference, and this included 3 separate safeguards. A large stone. A disc-shaped stone is commonly depicted in art in front of Jesus' tomb. However, only 4 of the 900 tombs from this period have stones shaped like that, and most resembled corks, and it would have been difficult to relocate in either instance. A guard. We do not know whether they used Roman guards or Jewish temple police, but Pilate demanded that a guard be stationed in front of the tomb. A Roman seal. A Roman seal indicated that the contents belonged to Rome and served as a warning. Anyone caught breaking such a seal would almost certainly be crucified. It would have been nearly impossible to reach the body, and that is probably why the Romans never mentioned the body being stolen in the book of Acts. Number 7. Jesus' resurrection was physical.